Rachel's text lit up my phone during a board meeting. Mom's having her 60th birthday party at the Royal Vista Hotel, she wrote. She says you're not invited to the VIP section. Michael agreed with her, my own husband siding with his mother again. I kept my expression neutral as I ended the call with our Tokyo investors, my finger hovering over my sister-in-law's message. The irony would have been laughable if it wasn't so painful. The Royal Vista Hotel was just one property in the luxury hotel chain I'd built from the ground up over the last decade, a fact my mother-in-law Barbara had no idea about. To her, I was just her son's trophy wife, a pretty face who trapped her precious boy into marriage. Miss John, the Singapore team is ready for their update, my assistant Kevin reminded me. I nodded, pushing thoughts of Barbara's party to the back of my mind. I had an empire to run, even if my in-laws thought I spent my days getting manicures and shopping. The thing about assumptions is that they're easy to make and hard to correct. When I met Michael 5 years ago, I was already a successful businesswoman, but I kept my professional life private. My company operated under my Chinese family name Zhang, while I used Michael's surname Thompson in my personal life. It wasn't intentional deception, just a separation of worlds that had proven useful over the years. Barbara had made her opinion of me clear from day one. A girl from nowhere, she'd said to Michael loud enough for me to hear. No family connections, no proper education. She'd never bothered to ask about my background, and I'd never bothered to correct her assumptions. Michael, eager to keep peace, had always brushed off his mother's behavior. It's just how she is, he'd say. She'll warm up to you eventually. 5 years later, I was still waiting for that warmth. I finished my calls and pulled up Rachel's text again. The party was this weekend, a lavish affair for 300 guests at my flagship hotel. Barbara had been working with my events team for months, though she'd never met the owner. Me, she just dealt with the managers throwing around Michael's name to demand special treatment. Kevin, I called. Get me Daniel from the Royal Vista. Daniel, my hotel manager, answered on the first ring. Miss Zhang, I was just about to call you about Mrs. Thompson's birthday party. She's been quite demanding. I could imagine. Tell me everything. The list was extensive. Barbara had insisted on the presidential suite at a discount because her son was friends with the owner. She demanded exclusive use of the VIP lounge where she planned to host an intimate gathering for select guests after the main party. A gathering I wasn't invited to, despite being her daughter-in-law. She mentioned you might come, Daniel said carefully. She was quite specific about where you should be seated, in the back, by the kitchen entrance. Of course she was. I pulled up the guest list on my laptop. All of Hartford's elite would be there. Judges, politicians, old money families, people Barbara had spent her life trying to impress. People who, ironically, I often sat with in boardrooms and charity committees, though she didn't know that. Daniel, maintain all her arrangements, I decided. But I want the security team briefed and make sure Marcus is bartending the VIP lounge. Marcus was our best mixologist, and more importantly, he knew exactly who I was. The day of the party arrived bright and clear. Michael had left early to help his mother prepare, leaving me to get ready alone. Mom thinks it's better if we arrive separately, he said, not meeting my eye. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. I chose my outfit carefully. A simple black Chanel dress, elegant but understated. No need to compete with Barbara's guaranteed extravagance. I arrived exactly on time, walking into the grand ballroom I'd helped design 3 years ago. Barbara had outdone herself. Ice sculptures, champagne fountains, a string quartet playing in a corner. She stood holding court near the entrance, resplendent in a red designer gown. Michael dutifully by her side. Oh, you came, she said when she spotted me, her smile not reaching her eyes. The general seating is that way. Michael, darling, help me greet the mayor. I watched them walk away, knowing how Michael's shoulders tensed. He knew what his mother was doing was wrong, but he'd never stand up to her. Not without a push. I made my way to my assigned table next to the swinging kitchen doors. A few other outcasts were seated there. The second cousins Barbara tolerated, a neighbor she felt obligated to invite. They avoided my eyes, not wanting to be associated with the snubbed daughter-in-law. The evening progressed exactly as Barbara had planned. Dinner was served, speeches were made, and then came the announcement about the VIP gathering in the exclusive lounge. I watched as half the party made their way to the elevators, golden bands glinting on their wrists. Michael cast a guilty look my way before following them. Perfect timing. I pulled out my phone and texted Daniel. Time for phase 2. The next hour was a masterclass in subtle revenge. First, the air conditioning in the VIP lounge mysteriously malfunctioned, blasting heat instead of cool air. Then the premium liquor bottles kept coming up empty when Barbara's favorites were ordered. Small inconveniences, nothing too obvious. I sat at my kitchen-adjacent table, sipping champagne and waiting. 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, Barbara came storming out of the elevator, her face flushed with anger and heat. "Where is the manager?" she demanded. "This is unacceptable. Do you know who I am?" Daniel appeared, perfectly professional. "Is there a problem, Mrs. Thompson?" "Everything is a problem. The air conditioning, the drinks, the service. I want to speak to the owner right now." "Of course," Daniel said smoothly. "Miss Zhang is actually here tonight." Barbara's face turned triumphant. "Finally, where is she?" I stood up from my table by the kitchen, smoothing my dress. "Right here, Barbara." The silence that fell over the ballroom was absolute. Barbara stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Michael, who had followed his mother downstairs, went pale. That's not possible," Barbara sputtered. "You're just what?" I asked quietly. "A trophy wife. A girl from nowhere. The owner of this hotel and the entire Royal Vista chain. All of the above, actually." The whispers started, of course. Half the people here knew me as Yi Zhang, the businesswoman. They were just now connecting the dots. "Miss Zhang," Daniel said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "shall I have the air conditioning repaired in the VIP lounge?" "No need," I replied. "I think the party's moving back down here." I turned to the gathered crowd. "Drinks are on the house, everyone. Consider it a birthday gift to my mother-in-law." The next hour was chaos, but the kind I'd orchestrated. Barbara's carefully curated VIP group dissolved as guests migrated back to the main ballroom, many coming to greet me not as Michael's wife, but as Yi Zhang, the CEO they'd worked with for years. Michael approached me, his face a mix of shock and something else. Was it admiration? "Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asked. "You never asked." I replied simply. "You were too busy defending your mother's assumptions about me." He flinched. "Emily, Miss Zhang." The mayor's wife descended on us. "I had no idea you were Michael's wife. You must join us for the charity gala planning next week." I smiled. Of course, though I usually prefer to be seated away from the kitchen. The mayor's wife had the grace to look embarrassed. She'd been at the VIP gathering after all. As the night wound down, I found Barbara sitting alone at what had been my table, staring at nothing. The irony wasn't lost on me. "The service is better here than you think," I told her, sliding into the seat next to her, despite the kitchen door. She turned to me, her carefully made-up face showing every year of her 60 years. "You've been laughing at me all this time," she said bitterly. "No, Barbara. I've been working all this time. Building something just like you always wanted Michael to do." I stood up. "Happy birthday. The presidential suite is comped, of course. Family discount." I walked away, hearing her sharp intake of breath behind me. My phone buzzed. Kevin with updates about our new project in Dubai. Time to get back to work. The story wasn't over, of course. There would be fallout, explanations needed, relationships to rebuild or end. But for now, I had given Barbara exactly what she'd always wanted. A birthday party people would talk about for years to come, just not for the reasons she planned. The morning after Barbara's birthday party, I woke up to 37 missed calls. Most were from Michael, who hadn't come home last night, a few from Rachel, probably checking on the fallout, and one from Barbara herself. I ignored them all and opened my laptop instead. The Asian markets were closing, and I had decisions to make. Being publicly revealed as Yi Zhang meant I could no longer maintain the careful separation between my personal and professional lives. Time to get ahead of the story. "Kevin," I said when he picked up, "schedule a press release. It's time to put a face to the Royal Vista brand." My phone buzzed again. "Michael this time," I answered. "Where are you?" His voice was rough, either from lack of sleep or too much drinking. "In my home office, where I am every morning at 7. You have a home office." I closed my eyes. 5 years of marriage, and he never once asked what was behind the double doors in our east wing. Had never wondered why I disappeared there for hours each day. "We need to talk," he said. "Yes, we do. But first, I have a board meeting. Come by my office, my real office, at noon." "Your office?" he repeated, like the words were in a foreign language. "At the Jiang Industries building downtown, 37th floor. Tell reception your wife is expecting you." I hung up before he could respond. There was a certain satisfaction in knowing he'd have to say those words, my wife, to get to me now. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and damage control. Word had spread fast in our social circles about last night's revelation. My PR team was already fielding calls from business magazines wanting to know how Hartford's most successful female CEO had managed to keep such a low profile. "Mr. Thompson is here," my assistant buzzed. "Send him in." Michael walked into my office like a man entering foreign territory. His eyes swept over the floor-to-ceiling windows, the modern art on the walls, the wall of awards I'd never displayed at home. He looked displaced in his casual clothes among the corporate sophistication. "You've been busy," he said finally. "For the past 15 years, yes." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Though you never noticed." He sat, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Mom's a mess." Of course that's what he led with. Always his mother first. "Barbara's pride is hurt," I corrected. "She'll survive." "She says you humiliated her, deliberately set her up to fail at her own birthday party." "No, she set herself up by trying to humiliate me. I just chose not to play the role she assigned me." Michael shifted uncomfortably. "You could have told me about all this. Like you told me about agreeing to exclude me from the VIP section." He had the grace to look ashamed. "That was wrong. I should have stood up to her." "Yes, you should have. But you never do, Michael. And now I have to wonder, would knowing about my success have changed anything? Or would you have just had a different excuse for letting your mother treat me like dirt?" My intercom buzzed. "Miss Zhang, Tokyo is calling in 5 minutes." I looked at Michael. "I have a company to run. We can continue this conversation at home." He stood looking lost. "When will you be home?" "When I finish work. Like always." Understanding finally dawned on his face. All those times he thought I was at yoga, or shopping, or lunch with friends, I'd been here, building an empire while playing the role his family had cast me in. The next few weeks were a crash course in reality for the Thompson family. Barbara, unable to face her social circle after the party, fled to her sister's house in Florida. Rachel, who'd always been kinder than the rest, called to apologize for her years of condescension. "I just assumed," she said. "Because Mom said." "A lot of people assumed," I replied. "That was their mistake." The business press had a field day with my story. Hidden CEO. The woman who built an empire in secret, ran one headline. Trophy wife or business mogul. The double life of Emily Zhang Thompson declared another. I gave exactly one interview to a respected business journal. When asked why I'd kept my professional life separate, my answer was simple. Success speaks for itself. I didn't need to announce it. The article went viral. Michael moved into our guest room. We were in limbo. Not quite separated, not quite together. He attended therapy, trying to understand his role in enabling his mother's behavior. I watched him struggle with the realization that his trophy wife was more successful than he'd ever be. Barbara returned from Florida after a month, considerably subdued. She requested a meeting through Michael. "I'll see her at the hotel," I decided. In the VIP lounge. She arrived exactly on time, dressed with her usual elegance but missing her usual arrogance. Marcus served drinks without being asked. Champagne for me, water for her. "You've redecorated," she said, looking around the lounge. "Yes, the whole hotel is being renovated. We're expanding." She flinched at the "we." "I suppose you want me to apologize." "No, Barbara, I don't need your apology. What I want is for you to understand something." I leaned forward. "I am not the woman you imagined me to be. I never was. Your son married a CEO, not a trophy. And if you want any relationship with us going forward, you need to accept that reality. And if I can't, then you'll miss out on a lot more than VIP access to my hotels." She took a shaky breath. "Michael is in therapy." "Yes. Because of me. Because of himself. He's finally facing his own role in our dynamics." She stirred her water. the ice cubes clinking against the glass. And you? Will you forgive him? That depends on Michael, on whether he wants to be a partner or just a son who never grew up. The renovation works echoed through the building, a fitting soundtrack to our conversation about rebuilding. I looked you up, Barbara said finally. Your company, your achievements, the charity work. She paused. The scholarship program for underprivileged girls. Someone has to help the girls from nowhere achieve their dreams. She flushed, recognizing her own cool words thrown back at her. As she left, she turned back one last time. For what it's worth, I was wrong about you. I know, I replied. I always knew. That evening, I found Michael in my home office, really looking at it for the first time. He was studying the framed photo on my desk, us on our wedding day. I was so proud that day, he said without turning around. Proud that someone as beautiful as you had chosen me. I never thought to be proud of anything else about you. And now? He turned, his eyes red. Now I'm ashamed of myself, of how I let Mom treat you, of how little I knew my own wife. He swallowed hard. But mostly I'm in awe of everything you've built, of how strong you are. I don't deserve you. Probably not, I agreed. But deserving me isn't the point, Michael. Supporting me is. Being a true partner is. Can you do that? I want to try. He gestured to my desk. Show me. Tell me about your company, your work, everything I should have asked about years ago. I sat down in my chair, watching him settle into the visitor's seat, just like in my downtown office. But this time, he was ready to listen. It started 15 years ago. I began with one small hotel and a dream. 3 months after Barbara's birthday party, we hosted another event at the Royal Vista. The official launch of our Asian expansion combined with the announcement of a new scholarship foundation for women in business. Michael stood beside me as I gave my speech, his hand supportive on my back. Barbara sat in the audience, not in the VIP section, but not by the kitchen either. Progress comes in small steps. Rachel had joined my board of directors, bringing her legal expertise to the company. She'd broken free of Margaret's influence, finding her own voice in the process. As for me, I was finally fully myself, like Chin Williams, CEO of Grand Haven Hotels, and a woman who had built her success one careful brick at a time. No more hiding, no more playing small to soothe others' insecurities. The trophy wife was gone. In her place stood what had been there all along, a woman who had built an empire. While others underestimated her, a woman who had turned assumptions into advantages and silence into strength. After all, sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's success on your own terms.